lost in this country.
Yes.
Just focusing on that. And the second part of it is my better half is black, and so I kind of experience both sides from the New Orleans standpoint. It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, I would agree, you know, with him, her, and I'm sorry, I don't know you guys' names, but you know, especially I've got 2 black siblings. I mean, obviously not my blood, but you know, they're my siblings, and I'll go to death for them just like I would with any of my other 12 siblings. And one of my brothers, who's white, has a spouse that's black. You know, it's like, if, you know, there's so much energy and just focus on the separation of the races as opposed to, I mean, I know there's a lot of energy focused on that bringing together of races, but I think if the focus that is on the sheer separation of the races would shift slightly into what we can do to come together as a people, then, you know, we would be a lot more productive. We would learn how to come out of the mindset of our forefathers, whether it's a mindset of racism or whether it's a mindset of oppression. And so that's, you know, how I feel.
I tell my sister Paul all the time, we always joke, and I always tell Paul that if he and I were in competition with one another, I'd beat him every time because I put a plan together. And realistically, to get to your question where you were going, because I think that when you're having a conversation, depending on how large the conversation is, you have to know where you're at in the plan. Right? So if you go back and deal with race, 100 years ago, we were at a different part in the plan. Right? And a lot of times people are speaking about something, like when I gave my lecture, I was talking about culture. I'm speaking it in terms of it right now. If I go back and spend some time talking about it from 50 years ago, it's a different type of conversation. So I'm speaking in terms of it right now. And we talked about the dominant discourse in the lecture. The dominant discourse is just a challenge all the time. I had a conversation the other time speaking of classic leaders of dominant discourse. And I have to think the entire time of everything I say, I'm like, damn, I just hate the fact that they're leading it. And it's the reality of it. The dominant discourse about this is it affects every opportunity you have. Now, here's the thing: if you're white and you have a trust fund, and you're Rockefeller. I met one of the Rockefellers the other day at the White House. I'm like, damn, I'm at Rockefeller. Yeah, there you go. It was amazing, you know. And so I'm thinking to myself, you know, there's a person who gets a check every month. I don't know if maybe it's in a trust or maybe it's in stocks. It's probably a tremendous, you know, but they get resources that comes to them. And maybe somebody has a trust fund. But how it works is, it just happens. It happens at a certain point in time. You get it, and you just have opportunities. I have another good friend of mine, and he said his family has they're the wealthiest family in New Orleans, and we're in the state. They have the largest family foundation. They have so much money that they put so much money away in their nonprofit that they give away about between $11 to $15 billion a year. They have to give that away. You know, and as you know, in a nonprofit organization, a foundation, you have to give away 5%. Right? And so it's funny, I'm talking to him, and this is how much money he's got. And so he says, yeah, well, you know, I gotta go, family, we're gonna meet, we're gonna talk about the trust. And he's talking to me, I don't have a trust, you know what I'm saying? But tell me about the trust. And my point is, even when I have this conversation with him, I want him to know that it's a problem for him too. So it's not really about your personal standing, where you live, and this kind of a thing. It's an issue because everything in your life, I guess when I'm saying issue, you should want to know what something is. You know, you should want to know. It's like the Constitution. I heard you say, hey, is that in the Constitution? One, you should get a copy of the Constitution.
Yeah, I've read it on my phone, but I haven't actually read it.
You should read it, right? I mean, you should know. You should know what we can do, what we can't do. I was on a phone call today. We're trying to speak to you about some new legislation. You know, and it's like these people, it affects what we do. It affects our opportunities. And here's the other thing about all this stuff. Things change. This is what I learned after Hurricane Katrina. It can be cool right now, and then tomorrow, it can be something else. And then you find yourself going back all the way to the beginning, trying to, whoa, how did we get here? It's kind of like UNO and the budget cuts we started to receive as a school. And everybody said, oh, how do we get back here? You go back to Bobby Jindal, you figure out how do you, oh, but I thought he came from higher ed. You start going back to his. So my point being that to answer a question about what should we do or how should we do it, one, we have to really recognize that it is, it is something that exists. A lot of times, you're dealing with like it doesn't exist, and you can't. It's hard to have a conversation about something that doesn't exist. Everybody's not an expert on it. David started discussing that earlier. Spent a lifetime doing it, and it's very important to discuss expertise because we have to know who to go to. It's kind of like the healthcare bill. I am not a healthcare professional, and I know the bill is something like that. So who do we go to? That's an expert. And not everybody's an expert on something. Just because you got an opinion and an emotion about it doesn't make you an expert on it. So I think recognizing experts is the second thing. That's why I invite Barbara to come here with a team all the time to my class. She's the only guest I get every semester. And the final piece is personal responsibility. I try to instill in my kids, or even in the band all the time, personal responsibility. Because really, if you want to win, the team that has people with personal responsibilities is the one that wins all the time. Because things change and you make the decision from a personal position versus waiting for somebody to call you, waiting for somebody to tell you to do something, waiting for something. And even and with my team, when we sit down with my staff, we look at this and take approaches like that. Even some of the best corporations you see take that kind of, like a Target. Met with them recently. They take a personal approach to everything they do. And that's why they win. And that's why when they put that bullseye, they can put some new line of clothes up. You'll go get the clothes. So if we're going to address this issue, I think we have to approach it from those three different things. And it's very hard to answer it if you ask Barbara Major, what do you do about it? Well, the first thing I think we got to do is we got to know.
Oh, yeah.
And getting to know it, imagine this. We've just now come into a collective intelligence as a group today. We just got started one day, and typically her racism usually happens over a period of days.
Yes, days.
So y'all are getting kind of a crash course. So I just want to take a moment to kind of set that up for you.
Yeah.
And I just have a question. So if we're talking about social construct and we think 50 years into the future, with as much interracial relationships that we have now, what do you think the next social construct is going to develop? Because there's a lot of interracial and
Right. And it's going to always, people have always loved to cross these lines that were created. However, what will happen is what I saw happen with the Latino community. We'll take some of y'all. The other thing is they want this mixed box. Now I want to know how mixed you got to be. See, even that is racist in and of itself. I got like you have a black dad and a white mom, I think. So you would go in the mixed box. So I got a white grandma. So do I get in that mixed box? That's the pull, they keep trying to create boxes. But ultimately this stuff will implode. You can't keep doing that. If you run around you can't create all these boxes because but if we don't, it doesn't matter, we will find a way. If we don't understand how to radically reconstruct systems and institutions, there's always going to be somebody at the short end. Because we have not created our institutions and systems around the issue of equity, that there's real equity. So it's like creating others like, okay, there are too many brown people, well look, some of y'all can be white now. It's the same thing, well, black folk, then I'll let some of y'all be mixed. I am totally opposed to this mixed thing because I want to know who gets to decide how mixed you are.